Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today's video I want to talk a little bit about an article that somebody recently sent me about some laws that have just been passed here in my home state of Florida, but it's really starting to kind of creep up everywhere. All these new laws being passed because of just the shenanigans that are happening out there, the craziness, talking about things like parking lot takeovers and some of the highway shutdowns and all that kind of stuff, plus some street racing stuff out there as well. The lawmakers are getting very serious about this kind of thing. So today I want to tell you about the new laws that have been passed and the possible impacts on the car community. It should be a lot of fun. If you're brand new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Only 22% of you guys watching at home are actually subscribed to my channel. I'd love to have you aboard, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Now, before I get too far into the video, I just want to mention, car culture has always been one of, especially the performance car culture, has always been one where, people like to show off a little bit. That is just what it is. Even your normal car meets, it's kind of people just showing off their rides. And people learn to express themselves in kind of different ways, some of which I don't have too big of a problem with, and some of it I think is just really plain and stupid and has really kind of ruined it for the car community as a whole. But the lawmakers feel like their hand has kind of been forced at this point because it has been getting more and more ridiculous when they're going out there and shutting down highways and impeding traffic and all that sort of stuff, when it's just blatant reckless endangerment. There are some things that are blatantly just flat out stupid. And so, yeah, I'm a car guy through and through. I absolutely love expressing myself with my car. I like to make it unique and different. Certainly a very fast car. I've owned a lot of them, and I like to have fun in my car too, but there are ways to do it responsibly, and some people have just completely taken it way too far. So let's talk about all of these new laws going into effect. So for the purposes of this particular video, I wanted to come tuck in the house so that I could pull the article up on my computer, which I have right up here. You guys can't see it, but I will provide the link to this article down below in the description of the video, so please feel free to go check that out whenever you have time. And some people may say, hey, look, Racer X, I don't live in Florida, so I don't care. But the truth is that bills like this are being passed all over the place simply because things are starting to get a little bit out of control, and a lot of these people have this mentality like, look, you know what, I could care less about the general public or what's good or bad or placing other people in danger, and I do have a problem with that. It's really starting to give the car community just a black eye. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's not ideal. So what we have here is House Bill 399 for Florida, and I want to read what it says real quick so I can dive into this a little bit more. Takes place on October 1st is what it says. It will ban people from driving vehicles in streetcar takeover, stunt driving, race, speed competition or contest, drag race or acceleration contest, test of physical endurance, that's kind of a weird one, or exhibition of speed or acceleration on highway, roadway, or parking lot. There's a lot to digest there. So I want to kind of jump into what this means because this is a lot going on here. So after digesting that just a little bit, I have to admit, I sort of felt like all of this was illegal anyway, but I guess they just wanted to put something out there in writing that's a little more descriptive to make this easier to enforce, because I think law enforcement was kind of put in a little bit of a weird situation. Maybe some of this stuff was kind of in a gray area before, but now it's definitely not, because they even go so far as to define what each of these things means. Like, for example, they go on to say, what is a burnout? They tell you what it is right here. A maneuver performed while operating a motor vehicle, whereby the motor vehicle is kept stationary or in motion while the wheels are spun, resulting in friction, which causes the motor vehicle's tires to heat up and emit smoke. I think we all know what a burnout is, but they went so far as to get in Webster's dictionary and point it out. Even a donut, they tell us, a maneuver performed while operating a motor vehicle whereby the front or rear of the motor vehicle is rotated around the opposite set of wheels in a continuous motion, which may cause a circular skid mark or rubber on the driving surface, or the tires to heat up and emit smoke from friction, or both. So they defined each one of these little things so that nobody could say, well, I didn't know what a burnout was. Even drifting, they go so far as to kind of give you an exact definition of what that means here. So they're definitely pretty serious about that. And like I said, some of this may be a little bit gray, but it's definitely worth talking about. Now, some of these things do blend together just a little bit. They go on to define what a street takeover is. Obviously, that's where you take over a portion of highway. You go out and you do the drag racing, the burnouts, the donuts, all that good stuff. They talk about stunt driving, which is kind of the same thing. They don't specifically mention the street takeover piece of it, but it's all the same thing. You're doing donuts, burnouts, drifting, wheelies, which I think obviously wouldn't be for normal street cars, but hey, they put it in there, or other dangerous vehicle activity on the highway, roadway, or parking lots. So they mention specifically parking lots. So not only are they talking about what you do in like public intersections and on the street, but also if you have a closed parking lot, it is now illegal to go do all the drifting and the craziness that you see these guys doing. So there's that piece of it. And then of course, as you jump down, they also talk a little bit about this. It says it makes any streetcar takeover or incidents of stunt driving illegal, nor will it be legal for Floridians specifically, obviously, to or others to coordinate, facilitate, collect money, or bet on any drag race, street takeover, stunt driving competition, contest, test, or exhibition. So basically, and they go on to say via social media as well. So that is a really key thing, right? So not only, so they don't want this happening in the first place. And then of course, if you film it, you could also be held liable as well as bet on it. So those are a couple of wrinkles I found a little bit interesting. Now, one other key thing that I want to mention, and they spell it out very clearly here, is if you are a spectator to one of these events or you are a passenger, so if you're one of these people that's standing around with your phone just watching it and everybody's being all crazy, or you're one of these people that's like hanging out the window while they're doing the donuts and the sliding and all that sort of stuff, you are also held responsible and could face big fines or possibly even get arrested. So you've got to be mindful of that when you even go to one of these, that you are kind of putting yourself at risk. And even if you are impeding pedestrian traffic, it spells it out right there. That you could get in big trouble. Now, they do go on to make one last point here, and they stated that even if you are in a different vehicle filming this activity, whether it's the street takeovers and the burnouts or the drifting competitions, all that kind of stuff, you also can be held responsible, and you cannot put it out there on social media. So, wow, they're really defining very carefully what these illegal activities are, what they deem to be illegal. The only people that have the permission to actually do this, where it is not illegal, are bona fide members of the news media. So I guess if you're out filming a Dodge commercial or something like that on a closed course, a little bit different story, obviously. But yeah, if you're out filming, participating, actively involved in any of these activities, it could lead to some big problems. So now that we know what that bill is and what it says, I kind of want to take just a second to sort of unpack this and give you my thoughts, because obviously as a true car enthusiast, somebody who's owned a lot of really fast cars, I got to say, you know, fast cars are made to have fun in. That's why we have them. They're not the most practical things in the world. And I have done my fair share of fun things in cars. Now, I will say that there's a time and a place for everything. We still have to be responsible. Even if our car makes more power than the average car, that doesn't give us a right to endanger other people on the road. That's those guys out there zigzagging between traffic, driving 140 miles an hour. I mean, guys, you're giving us all a really bad look if you're one of those people that does that, and it's not okay. At the end of the day, that's just stupidity. And you do have no right to endanger some, minivan full of kids and two parents and all that kind of stuff because you want to act like a complete butt clown. I mean, that's the truth of it. And when you talk about the same thing with like these street takeovers that they talk about at length, that's basically shutting highways down, impeding all the traffic. Who cares about emergency vehicles and all that kind of stuff? And we even see when the police come and try and kind of run everybody off, I mean, everybody literally just runs. We see all sorts of videos out there where, the cops will have somebody pulled over and they think it's so fun to just run from the cops. And then people put it out on social media and glorify that activity. I don't know why all that is happening right now. I mean, obviously, even back in the day, and you had like Smokey and the Bandit and all that kind of stuff. We all knew that was a TV show. It wasn't real life. But I would never condone doing any of those things because you think it's fun or you think you have the right to do it. It's just kind of a messed up way to think.
Well, anything they can do, we can do. We can?
Well, guys, that is about it. I just wanted to give you my thoughts on this. I saw this new bill pass, and I thought I should at least weigh in on it. If you're in a state that already has these laws in place, then you're used to it. I kind of thought a lot of this stuff was already illegal, but as I mentioned, they had to put something more specific in writing. And we're seeing more and more restrictions on cars, even on exhaust, like in California and stuff like that. You can't even have an exhaust anymore. So, there is that piece of it. It's like when I was growing up, you could just ride in the back of a pickup truck, or half the time people weren't wearing seat belts, and now look where we are, right? I mean, it's like every little thing seems to be illegal, but then you have people that abuse it, and that's kind of where we are with this bill to kind of stop some of that. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.